Oh, hey everybody. My name is Sheila Gunn Reid and I'm your host today, working alone for our live stream show. It's twice weekly. It's called Rebel Roundup, wherein we talk of the news of the day or the week, completely unscripted. And the reason we love to do Rebel Roundup is because I think it is indicative of what makes us great here at Rebel News. Because without you, there's no Rebel News. So this really is, at the end of the day, your show. It's your opportunity to support us if you can. If you can't, thanks for being here and thanks for watching us, and even just having your eyeballs here is a form of support. But we talk about the news of the day, as I said, completely unscripted, and then we give you a chance to get involved. So if you are watching us on YouTube, I appreciate you sticking it out over there on that censorship platform. But I should let you know, we are completely demonetized over there. We were a little bit too honest. We said some things that YouTube didn't like that in the end turned out to be true about a whole number of things. So we still stream there. Part of it is for spite, they don't want us there, but there's also 1.6 million sets of your eyeballs over there. And we appreciate every single one of you, and we don't want to abandon you if that's your preferred way of consuming Rebel News content. However, if you want to support a platform that supports your right to free speech and supports the free speech of creators like us here at Rebel News, might I suggest you migrate your business over to Rumble. And on Rumble, you can do something called a Rumble rant. It's their paid chat. That money goes to support the work that we do here at Rebel News, because as you know, not only are we demonetized by YouTube, but we will never, ever, ever take a penny from Justin Trudeau to do the work that we do, to hold him to account, because how could we? How do you hold your paymaster to account, honestly? You can't, right? Consider that when you're consuming mainstream media content. So you can leave something called a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. And if your Rumble rant is over the $5 US cutoff, I'm hereby obligating myself to read it on air. But don't let that be the bar for entry. We love all your little bits and pieces because every little bit helps. And I just might read those rants that fall under the US $5 cutoff on air. Sometimes I even read the free ones if you guys are clever, funny, insightful, whatever. So get chatting and you might just see your chat read on air. Now, before I go on to the news of the day, normally David Menzies is my co-host on the show and he tells you what special day is today. But today actually is, at least according to Justin Trudeau, a special day to go surfing or whatever it is he does, why he created this holiday. I think we all know why. And I'll get to that in a second because we've got some tweets and videos about that. But we do have a very special message from a sponsor of the show. As you know, we do take sponsorships of the show because we don't take any money from Justin Trudeau. So if you are a small business out there and you want to hear your ad read on air on the show here, we've got an email. It's ads@rebelnews.com. You'll talk to our ads guy there, and you get access to thousands and thousands of freedom-minded thinkers who love to support businesses that are willing to work with Rebel News. So we've got a sponsor today. It's Freedom Chat. So let me ask you a question. How many of you are concerned that your privacy is being attacked by the radical left? I know I am. Remember when we used to have something called privacy? We don't really have that anymore. It sort of fell by the wayside during COVID when you had to tell your bartender your medical history before he could pour you a draft, right? The deep state, including the DOJ in the United States, and as you know, the Heritage Ministry here in Canada, is invading individuals' private messages and targeting them based on their political affiliation. That's why we've partnered with Freedom Chat, a private social messaging app that, like us, believes privacy is a fundamental human right. We've already mentioned this app once before, and we're going to continue to talk about it and use it. Freedom Chat offers true end-to-end encryption, built-in screenshot protection to ensure that no one can screenshot your conversations. I love that one. No storage of messages on their servers, and no commercial use of user data, so it won't be sold. This is the app that we trust, and it's the app our families rely on, especially as we approach the election. Some people will stop at nothing to maintain power. Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, making privacy protection more important than ever. Download the app right now by going to freedomchat.com/Rebel News. We are such a fan of Freedom Chat that we've even created our own channel at Rebel News, which you can subscribe to for exclusive content, including never before seen images, videos, and posts. Simply download the app, search for our channel at Rebel News, and subscribe. No one, this is what I love, no one can see the channels that you are subscribed to or the posts you react to. So it's your own private news feed. You won't get a bunch of lefties saying, oh my God, they liked that thing from that person that we don't like said or did, and so let's cancel them. You won't be a victim of any of that on Freedom Chat. If you're on Android, like me, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. Scan that. And you can subscribe to their wait list or go to freedomchat.com/Rebel News. Again, download the app today and subscribe to our channel at Rebel News for exclusive posts and never before seen content. We've already posted a few times in our channel. We're going to continue to post. So make sure that you go download the app and subscribe. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. So thank you, Freedom Chat, for that. Let's get into the very special day of mourning wherein we have to feel bad about our country's history, and Justin Trudeau gets to go taste some tasty waves because this is the day he goes surfing. I don't know where he is today, but in past he's gone surfing because he was just so full of shame and regret at the history of this country, which he has said is guilty of genocide. So today is National Truth and Reconciliation Day, a day that Justin Trudeau brought in. It's a federal holiday. It's not provincial. which means the federal government and federal workers get the day off, even though if indeed there was a genocide that took place against our Indigenous peoples, it happened at the hands of the federal government, but those guys are the ones getting the day off. So square that circle, wouldn't you? According to the government website, today honors the children who never returned and survivors of residential schools. Here's the thing. There's not been an instance of children, like lost children. Everybody who died at a residential school for any number of reasons, their deaths are documented. Nobody just went to a residential school and then just disappeared. That didn't happen. There's none of that. Have you heard a single name? Have you heard a single name? There's never been a single name. However, just me saying this, without saying residential schools were bad or good or anything, just saying, you have never heard a name of somebody who disappeared at a residential school. Just me saying that, the NDP would like that criminalized. Lee Gazin. So Justin Trudeau, this is what he tweeted, probably from the beach in Tofino. He's got reception out on the beach. This is what he tweets. He says, the road we travel is equal in importance to the destination we seek. There are no shortcuts. When it comes to truth and reconciliation, we are forced to go the distance. Justice Murray Sinclair. Okay. But we're doing the reconciliation part without the truth part. That's the part that bothers me in all of this. There's not been an excavation at a residential school site. You haven't heard the name of anybody who went missing and never returned. You haven't seen a list of children who died under suspicious circumstances at a residential school. Don't you think there would be names? These were students, they were documented, their marks were recorded, their ages, everything. It was recorded. Where are the missing ones? That's all I'm saying. I want the truth part before we do the reconciliation part. I think they go hand in hand. If you need people to atone for what they've done, I'm all for that. But let's get the truth part first. However, if just even saying that, it would that speech the NDP would love to be criminalized. Maybe we can dig up that video of Lee Gazin, NDP MP from Manitoba, saying that we can't even say that we want the facts here. Anyway, let's go to this video from our premier here in Alberta, Daniel Smith, who says on National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, Canadians come together to learn, recognize, and reflect on the history of residential schools. And look I'm not saying they were good, but I'm saying I would like some more information before we, well, I guess before we accuse people of genocide. I feel like we should have some details, don't you? Anyway, let's see. I think she took a pretty reasonable approach here to what I think is a pretty contentious issue in this country right now.
On September 30th, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, Canadians come together to learn, recognize, and reflect on the history and enduring legacy of residential schools. This day highlights the trauma experienced by many while fostering hope for a healthier future. Emphasizing the need for reconciliation, what we refer to as reconciliation, the day underscores the importance of building and strengthening relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. The Premier's Council on Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People plays a crucial role in this process by advising the government on actions to address the ongoing impacts of violence against these groups, ensuring that Indigenous voices and perspectives remain central to policy development. Additionally, our government set up the Indigenous Reconciliation Initiative that provides funding of up to $100,000 for cultural or economic projects through two different streams: The cultural stream supports Indigenous-led initiatives that protect and revitalize Indigenous languages, cultures, and arts, while the economic stream focuses on projects aimed at improving economic outcomes for communities. Furthermore, the government is making meaningful strides to foster partnerships through initiatives like the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation. This organization empowers Indigenous nations by transforming ideas into action, driving Indigenous prosperity and independence through investment and active participation in key sectors across the province. Together, these initiatives reflect a commitment to building a more just and inclusive future for Indigenous peoples.
Okay, so Premier Smith is obviously a politician, and so she needed to make a statement today. But did you notice the tone of her statement that you won't see from other politicians, and particularly the federal government? Her tone was not divisive. It wasn't leveling blame. Even the music that they chose in that video, it felt hopeful, right? It felt like there's a lot of work to do. And the way out of this is preserving culture and economic opportunity. I think that's exactly the right tone, right? Like, that's not just something that works for Indigenous people, it works for everybody, like every marginalized group. That's what you're supposed to do, because your culture dies in poverty. And further to Premier's work with the Indigenous peoples, if you've got a group of people dealing with generational trauma often manifests in addiction and poverty and abuse. Instead of waiting around for Justin Trudeau, who can't manage to get clean drinking water on reserve, to do something about it, even though Indigenous healthcare is a federal responsibility, guess who's building treatment centers on reserve? Even though it's not our responsibility here in the province, Premier Daniel Smith. So however we got to this place, there is clearly a problem before us. And being divisive and laying blame is Justin Trudeau's solution. I think our premier is taking a different approach. And so you can just tell it in the tone, and the tone she used in that. It was like I said, it was hopeful. It was like, there's a problem. There's no way that we get through this without each other. We're going to work together. We're going to work against poverty. We're going to work against addiction. We're going to work to preserve culture. Okay. All right. Whatever the problem is, I think those are pretty good solutions. Okay. Let's see. What's next on the agenda? I think we have a Rumble ad break, Olivia? We have one of them there. Okay, we've got something, a message from Rumble. As I said, we're completely demonetized by YouTube. And so one of the ways that we can support the network and also keep this show going, because there are a lot of resources that go into it, we take sponsorships and ad reads. And so our next one is the Kids Guide. I think it's really important to, as a mom, to make sure that our kids are sort of insulated from the ugly values that activist teachers would love to instill in them in the classroom. And part of that is a bit of work after your kids come home from school. So I have an important message about President Trump for all the parents right there. So please listen up. Some of the most anti-conservative people out there are activist teachers. There's some great conservative teachers out there, and you'll find them in certain school systems. But President Trump says that he wants to take back America and teach kids to love their country. That's why it's so important that we make sure our kids are learning the truth about President Trump and not the distorted lies they're hearing in the mainstream media. The good news is that Mike Huckabee's team put together the Kids Guide to President Trump, and right now you can get it for free. With fun illustrations and easy to follow content, this important guide teaches kids all about President Trump's accomplishments during his first term, and it helps kids understand his goals in 2024. Mike Huckabee wants to send you this free guide so you can teach your kids the truth. but please hurry because supplies are limited. To claim your free Kids Guide to President Trump right now, just go to kidstrumpguide.com. That's kidstrumpguide.com. Before we move on from Truth and Reconciliation Day, we've got a message from the federal conservative leader whose polling numbers continue to increase on this day. So let's hear from Pierre Poilievre.
Today, we remember the brave survivors of Canada's residential schools who defiantly continue to live out their cultural traditions. And we remember those who did not make it home. We remember the dark history of excessive government overreach that brought lasting suffering to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. Overpowering and controlling big government attacked your way of life, targeted your culture for destruction, and denied your rights and freedoms. On National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, we learn from this past, and we forge ahead to the future. We must end the Ottawa Knows Best top-down, paternalistic approach that serves only bureaucrats, politicians, and lobbyists in the federal government. Government control is the problem, not the solution. Indigenous peoples must have the freedom to determine their futures, preserve their languages, develop their resources, use their talents, and celebrate their cultures. Through a new approach and through the unmatched resilience of Indigenous peoples, Canada can achieve reconciliation and a brighter future for all.
All right. I thought that was great. I thought that was great. That's exactly what happened. Like I said off the top of the show, National Truth and Reconciliation Day is a federal government holiday. So the people who are responsible for the attacks on Indigenous culture that have a lasting impact today, they're the ones getting the day off. The unmitigated gall of these people. But I thought Pierre Poilievre's statement was exactly right. There's government overreach into your family, telling you how to live your life. And here we are. And so we must reject it in all of its forms. And as Premier Smith points out, culture dies in poverty. So I thought that was great. And of course, the lefties are going to be super mad because that will be seen as a political statement. But it is true. It's nothing more than what Justin Trudeau has said. He has said that, there was a genocide perpetrated on Indigenous people. Who did it, Justin? Your dad? The Liberal Party? When it was in power? You betcha. The last guy to sign off on residential schools, guess who that was? Jean Chrétien. See them dusting him off to talk to him these days? No. If that were a conservative that signed off on the last residential schools, he would never be able to live a day in peace. But we're going to go through this whole day without saying the name Jean Chrétien, right? I thought that was a good statement by Pierre Poilievre. Turn it back on the Liberals. The Liberals, they say that a great harm was perpetrated on Indigenous people by the government. Great. Let's remind the people which government did it and how it happened. And the lefties are going to lose their marbles for sure. All right, let's go into unless we have any Rebel ads you want to run, Olivia? Okay, we'll wait. I think you've had quite enough messages. Let's go into the Hitlerian mobs still running amok in Canada's major cities nearly a year later from the Hamas terror attacks in Israel that left some 1,200 dead and at the time 240 kidnapped. Many of those are dead now. In fact, the Hamas terrorists try to use their bodies as bargaining chips. Just the absolute ghoulishness of these people. And yet, Israel is retaliating in the most targeted of ways. And I think we will look back on Bibi Netanyahu as one of the most resilient leaders of modern times, with his targeted attacks on the terrorists responsible, his unwavering commitment to bringing every last Israeli home, dead or alive, and his I was going to say inability. I think it is maybe an inability. Like it's a congenital inability to be affected by the world's pressures, to tell him to stop defending his people, protecting his people, and eliminating the murderers of his people. You know, everybody's telling him to use restraint. I think he's being pretty darn restrained. When you have the foresight to create a pager factory years in advance, disseminate those pagers to the terrorists, and then melt the terrorists' genitals off, I would say that's that's as targeted as it comes. Anyway, Trudeau's motorcade was swarmed by anti-Israel protesters at a Toronto fundraiser. Let's show this. I can see that these people don't like Justin Trudeau, but Justin Trudeau and his Liberal Party, they got to dance with the ones that brought them, as Shania Twain once sang. These, look at this. So it goes on like this for a little bit. You wonder if any arrests were made? You know what I do know is no bank accounts were frozen. That's for sure. These people are supporters of actual terrorists. Apologists for butchers and rapists. And they are being held behind a police line to keep them away from the Prime Minister. Do you think their bank accounts are going to be frozen? Do you think they're even going to be arrested? No. Bounce a little too high in the bouncy castle and honk a little too loud, though, in Ottawa, and you're going to get your bank account frozen. Hell, you might even get a mischief charge, held in jail. Maybe you don't get a mischief charge, but maybe they take you for one of those moonlit drives and leave you without a jacket in -40 on the outskirts of town after the RCMP have specific training to never do that after people died when they did that in Saskatchewan. But they did it to protesters in Ottawa. By the grace of God, they didn't die. And women, they were dropping women alone off on the outskirts of town in the freezing cold. You think these people are going for a moonlit drive with the cops? Nope. Nothing's going to happen to them. I mean, they're supporters of actual terrorism. You wonder what's going into their bank accounts and where it's going, like where it's coming from. You wonder, like maybe there's Iranian proxy money in there. Are we gonna look? No. FinTrack's too busy harassing farmers who gave $20 to the convoy. I'm not sure what it is that FinTrack does around here. I have no idea. All right, still on the normalization of anti-Semitism in this country. Anti-Semitic mechanic goes viral this weekend. Now, I don't know if he's a mechanic. Some other things are coming out about him. I don't know if he's a mechanic or a regular customer. We're going to do our best to get to the bottom of it. I don't think it actually even matters what he does for a living or any of that. I want to show you what he thinks. You know, like I know that there are, based on the anti-Semitic mobs out on the streets of Canada, there are a lot more people who think like this than we know. But it's not a crime to be an odious, disgusting individual. That's for sure. But this guy thinks he's so emboldened by what the lack of police in action against his fellow travelers in the movement that he thinks it's okay to say these things on camera without consequence. You know, like a normal person, as if anybody who thinks this way could be considered normal. But there are a lot of people who think this way and just keep it inside because they know this is not something that you could say in polite company. But he said it out loud, and there's a reason why he thought it was okay to say out loud. Look at this.
Fucking Jew,
What about
you
him?
have the right to fucking partner and I don't.
What is it?
Fuck you and fuck your mother and your grandmother and your great-grandmother, you
And
fucking
Hitler?
fake Jew.
What about Hitler again?
I said Hitler should have wiped every fucking one of you off the planet.
He said arrest me or call the fuck up. You call me a Jew again. There it is again.
Just saying it to the cops like it's nothing. Literally saying it to the cops, 2 cops. He's saying it like it's nothing because it actually, based on what's happening in this country, apparently it is nothing. It's not a cause for concern. There's a anti-Islamophobia envoy in the federal government. That's where Justin Trudeau focuses. You know, this stuff, this just out on the streets of Toronto, saying it to the cops. Because what's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing. Nothing's going to happen. That's Canada in 2024. It's not safe to be a Jew. It's just not, especially in Toronto, Canada's most diverse city, with Canada's largest Jewish population, with Jewish neighborhoods. You think that that would be a place that would be most tolerant of Jewish people? Definitely not. You can just scream about how Hitler should have killed them all to the cops and know that you're just going to walk away. Go back to your life. Say it in polite company. We've got a couple more videos on the same topic of just getting away with everything. These terror apologists. Hamas and Hezbollah supporters were in Toronto. This is why, you know, if anybody tells you this is about Israel, this is about Zionists. No, it's not. No, it's not. What the heck then does this random Jewish family in downtown Toronto have to do with any of this? Because they were being harassed by Hezbollah and Hamas supporters. They're not Israeli, as far as anybody knows. We don't know the politics of this family. They're just obviously Jewish. And so they were the targets of these Hamas supporters. So if anybody ever tells you, oh, this is just about, you know, this is political, it's about the state of Israel, the hell it is. The hell it is. Look at this.
Free, free Palestine! How does it feel to be the most hated people in the world? How does it feel to be the most hated people in the world? Do you have any idea how crazy you look?
Cool pogrom you have there, Olivia Chow. You might want to do something about it. No, we are going to dust off the anti-Islamophobia envoy to deal with. I'm not sure what, but you know, like Jews can't walk down the streets of Toronto now. That's a pogrom. Where are we? Is this like 1938 Poland? What am I looking at there? This is crazy. This is crazy. Olivia Chow's not going to say a damn thing. She's the mayor who won't shut up about racism. Maybe she's too busy dancing in next to nothing at some sort of cultural event, as she tends to do. What an embarrassment. What is wrong with the leaders of this country? You know, they prattle on about systemic racism. You guys are the system. You progressives are the system. This is your system. I'm not any part of this. So yeah, maybe there is systemic racism. Maybe there is, but it's the system. They're the system. This is their system. They're in charge of it. This is 10 years of Justin Trudeau, and Jews can't walk the streets of Toronto. So great. Good job. One more on a happier note. Nasrallah, Hezbollah leader Nasrallah was turned to ash by the Israelis. Now, over at the CBC, they're very upset. They're telling you everybody is very, very sad. Actually, maybe we can find that. I think it's on Ezra's X account. We'll show that after. But Iranians who hate Hezbollah, who are oppressed by Hezbollah, murdered by Hezbollah, they're out dancing in the streets. They're thanking Israel for doing this. So let's show this. Thank you, Israel party in the street. Salman.
Daniel, for you!
So that's our friend Salman. Salman Sima, Iranian dissident. He was imprisoned in Iran for being a critic of the regime, came to Canada as a refugee. And that just warms my heart. That's our Canada right there. Those are Jews and Muslims, Iranians, dancing and celebrating the death of a terrorist who terrorized both of them, dancing to an Israeli folk song on the streets of Toronto. That's what it's supposed to be. That's our country. Let us never forget that. All right. Let's hit an ad break. Let's hit a Rebel News ad break. Thanks.
I'm in Brazil, so I'm using a VPN to get on the internet. What's a VPN? It stands for a virtual private network, and you get around these government firewalls. Suddenly, the president of Brazil banned his whole country from going on Twitter. It was a political censorship move. I've downloaded the VPN from a company called PIA VPN. We've teamed up with them at Rebel, and it's a great deal. I got on the internet really quickly, safely, and even I'm a bit of a technophobe. I managed to figure it out with 2 clicks. And here's the great news. If you go to piavpn.com/Rebel News, not only do you get a big discount, but they pay us a bit of a commission too. Everyone's a winner. Your freedom, your VPN, and a little bit of cash coming to support Rebel News. I'm using it myself to get around the censors in Brazil. You can use it too. That's piavpn.com/Rebel News.
Hello everyone! Hello all Rebel fans! Rebel News Live is back and will be soon happening in Calgary. Are you coming? Because I'm going to be there and I would love to see all of you and meet new faces. This year, we are heading to Calgary on October 5th for a fun full day of interesting conversations and of course, great food too. It's my favorite event of the year, and I know you won't want to miss it. You will be able to meet and hear from your favorite Rebel journalists and many special guests. And today, we have the honor to feature Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. You can get your ticket and see all the details at rebelnewslive.com. So, see you in Calgary. Love you all.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again, if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
We are Mindshift Studios, and we empower innovators and disruptors with next-gen marketing strategies. Leading our mission is Christopher Weddick, the CEO of Mindshift Studios and host of The Mindshift Show. Let our digital marketing services help you achieve your vision. Contact us today to get started.
Okay. It was a little long to get back out of that break. All right. Let's continue on with the show. I just want to go back to that message from our friend Mike Huckabee. And I just want to remind everybody that if you're like me and you still have kids in the public school system, they are currently being indoctrinated to hate conservatives. That much is true. We know that, right? Because these public school teachers, and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are activists, far left-wing activists, sex activists, otherwise. And they view humanity as a plague upon the face of the earth, your little beautiful children. And because of that, so frequently they don't have children of their own. So like zombies, to procreate, they have to infect your children with their disease. And so that's what they're trying to do, 7 hours every single day. So because of that, I just want to reiterate the important message for all parents and grandparents with kids in grade school. As the candidates race toward the White House, America hopes for a clean and fair election in 2024, but do your kids understand what that means? That's why Mike Huckabee's team created a fun and free kids guide to help you out. It's called Kids Guide to Presidential Election, and it'll teach your kids all the milestones a candidate must achieve to reach the Oval Office. So not only does it prevent indoctrination, but it actually teaches them the mechanics of an election, which is so important to know, because if you don't know the mechanics, then you can't see the manipulation of those mechanics as it's happening in real time right in front of your eyes. With the election coming up, there's never been a more important time to give your kids with the election coming up, there's never been a more important time for your kids to learn everything that's inside this free guide. Just order yours now before supplies run out. Just visit freeelectionlesson.com. That's freeelectionlesson.com. Okay. Let's go into last couple of things here. I know I'm running out of time. I say that David Menzies is the time waster of the show, but perhaps, friends, perhaps it is me. The phone call is coming from inside the house, as they say in scary movies. Okay, let's talk about this. Because as you've seen, we've seen these Hamas Hezbollah supporters just out there on the streets doing their thing, attacking Jews, swarming the Prime Minister's motorcade. How are they getting here? Well, there's a couple of different ways. Let's talk about the first way. They're coming as international students. And there's a reason they're coming as international students. So international student asylum claims surged in 2023, according to the data from Global News, which I don't have before me, but I wrote up an order paper question on this last week. So it's really nice to see Global News catching up to me about a week later. But those international students' claims are surging. So they're coming here as international students. Here we go. And then once they get here, they're doing something that they are really not allowed to do, but the Canadian government is letting them get away with it. and that's claiming asylum once they're here. And we have seen this being done with temporary residency permits. Those are visitors permits to this country. Come here on a visitor's permit and claim refugee status. You're not allowed to do that, but it is happening all the time. Now, there's a reason they're abusing this loophole. And Dane Lloyd, Conservative MP from Alberta, and who is a rising star in this, pressed the former Public Safety Minister, Ralph Goodale, on this. You see, if you come as a foreign student and then you just apply to these schools of convenience, they're diploma mills, right? And you say, look, I'm a student in Canada. I've been accepted to this school. Would you mind letting me in? And we say, sure, the school is a school and you have the money to come here, come on in. Here's the thing. If you come on those, you are frequently not subject to police security checks. So that's the way that these terrorists are getting around this. Same with the visitor's permit. Sometimes you are not subject to a police background check. But here's the great irony, right? If you're an American, you are. If you're from Pakistan, probably not. Isn't that outrageous? If you're American with a drug conviction or a drunk driving conviction from like 30 years ago, assault conviction because you got in a scuffle in a bar in your 20s, you can't come to this country. But if you come from one of these other countries, or if you come as an international student from India, Pakistan, whatever, you might quite likely are not subject to the same background checks as a visitor from one of these more westernized countries might be. Isn't that alarming to you? And it gets worse. We know now that the man El Didi, who plotted the terror attack against Toronto's Jews, the guy who was featured in an ISIS video hacking at a crucified Christian, or I'm going to assume he was a Christian, but a prisoner for sure. He came here on a visitor's visa and then applied for asylum. Why? Well, background check. Then now Canada is becoming a launching pad for terror attacks into the United States. A guy who came here, guess how he came here? On a foreign student permit. He's using Canada as a launch pad to attack America's Jews. That came out about 10 days ago. So anyways, getting back to Dane Lloyd, this happened under Ralph Goodale's watch. He was the former public safety minister when these guys were admitted into Canada. And now he's the envoy to something, some sort of diplomatic patronage post. I don't care. I just wish Ralph Goodale would go away. He's been arresting the wrong people and letting the wrong people in for decades. For decades. That guy's responsible for the arrest of farmers for selling their wheat. And he just turned a blind eye to letting bad guys into the country, and he arrests the good guys. Anyway, Dane Lloyd pressed him on this, and we don't need to show the whole clip. It's quite long, but that's how I cut things because I want you to see the whole context of the conversation. But Dane Lloyd lays out the timeline of when this stuff happens. So let's watch that.
In a chronology given to us on the entry of the alleged terrorist Ahmed El Didi, who was allowed into the country in 2018 on a temporary resident visa, and later that year he submitted an asylum claim, which was ultimately granted. You were the Minister of Public Safety at the time, is that correct?
In 2018, yes, I was.
Thank you. Now in 2018, the same year that El Didi entered the country, and a year before he was granted asylum status, your government stopped requiring police clearance certificates from certain countries of origin. Now, when this change was introduced, when you were minister, did you have decision-making power over that decision? And did you have any concerns about the decision to not require police clearance certificates from certain countries of origin?
Mr. Chairman, I heard this point being made in the previous meeting of the committee, and I have not been able, at long distance that I am, to be able to verify the facts of what exactly is being alleged here. It is something about which I have no direct knowledge because I was Minister of Public Safety, not Minister of Immigration. There's a difference in our ministerial.
Thank you. Surely, Minister, as the Minister of
responsibility.
Public Safety, I understand how ministries work. I understand that public safety and citizenship and Immigration Canada work very closely together. And if a policy decision was made under your government when you were Minister of Public Safety to stop requiring police clearance certificates from countries where there is a very high risk, was this not concerning to you at all?
One of the focuses that we had in that particular year, as I recall it, was making the use of biometrics universal across the system. That would be within the purview of.
Ralph Goodale doesn't answer the question. Like, he should have said, yeah, it's concerning. We shouldn't have done that. We should reinstate them. Instead, he's like, we did biometrics. Well, the biometrics didn't work, obviously, because terrorists keep getting into the country. So he spent the next 2 minutes prattling on about biometrics instead of saying, yeah, I'm very concerned that terrorists are slipping through the cracks. And yes, we should tighten up these security loopholes. But no, he's like, we did biometrics. Okay. What do you want us to do? I don't know. Police security checks. Like, literally, he's telling you whatever. So anyways, we're not in good hands at all. And I think Canadians are in a lot more danger than we realize, because given the fact that these student permits are surging and they're abusing the lack of security screenings for these foreign students, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. And instead of dealing with the problem, and we know what the issue is, if you are using Canada to be a place where you can either launch domestically or internationally cross-border to attack Jews and wage war on other infidels, I would suggest that you are an Islamic radical. However, CSIS, they know what they're telling us that no, that's not it, Sheila. That couldn't possibly be it. They're calling this recent spate of terror attacks, including one that happened that we seem to just completely forget about at Edmonton City Hall. Guy went to the City Hall and shot it up, and it was like out of the news cycle quicker than a Trump assassination attempt. CSIS says it's not Islamic radicalism. It's not hatred of Western culture or our way of life. It's got nothing to do with that, Sheila. Ignore everything you know to be true. It's what they're calling salad bar extremism, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. CSIS, hang your heads in shame for coming up with this term. Basically, they're saying they take a little from here and a little of there and a little of there, and we couldn't possibly know their motives because they've just got so many motives. They got all the motives. They're so disgruntled. They've just got this Cobb salad of grievances against everybody and everything. So please ignore the fact that they say stuff like, where they're doing video manifestos about the so-called Gaza genocide. Yeah, just totally ignore that stuff. Completely ignore that. And so it's not about that, it's about everything. It's about the fluoride, it's about chemtrails, it's about whatever, and a little bit of Islamic radicalism that, we're supposed to say, we're supposed to ignore that he said he wanted to use terroristic violence to change things. Inshallah, that he would succeed in his mission. We're not going to deal with the radicalism here if we just pretend that it is a bunch of other things. But if we admit that it's radicalism, then we have to admit the security failings that allowed it to happen. And so we can't do that because guess who failed at screening people? Ralph Goodale, the Liberals, Mark Miller. So we can't do that. We can't admit the problem because then we have to assign blame, and we can't have that when the Liberals are 25 points down, 26 points down in the polls. All right. Do we have another little ad break before we go into the last part of the show? Olivia? Okay, we'll just go on then. She says, no, we'll just go on, and that's fine by me, but except I lost my spot in the show. Okay, let's go. Let's go into some more Trudeau getting treated like a Trudeau should in the streets of Canada and in and around the world. So this is from Six Buzz. I'm going to give you a harsh language warning, which I forgot to give you earlier. But I think if you're still here, you are okay with harsh language because I forgot to warn you about the other stuff. And so this is from a boxing event in Mississauga. And I guess an anti-Trudeau chant erupted. Let's hear this. This is from Six Buzz.
November, it's going to be the most important fucking day of our lives, yo. Why? It's either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, and we're all blue here. We're all conservatives. We don't run with the fucking liberals. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Aiden, you're a man. You're really important. Fuck Trudeau! 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 All right, thank you guys so much. Next party.
Okay, nature's healing. Nature's healing. You know what I noticed there? Did you notice the same thing I did? And I don't want to say this because this is something that liberals notice, but if liberals are going to notice it and use it against us, I'm going to notice it too and use it against them. It's a pretty young crowd, but also pretty ethnically diverse. It's not a bunch of old white men, as the liberals would love to say, chanting about how bad Trudeau is. This is not a bunch of curmudgeons. Look at this crowd. Ethnically diverse young men who just want a future, doing masculine things like young men should do. Doesn't bode well for the liberals. In fact, that's not just an anecdotal observation that I'm making here. Can we bring up this tweet? Young Canadians. They're now the most right-wing demographic in Canada. They're the ones who are going to least vote for the Liberals. Let's show this. Vote intention in the federal election. 43% are conservative. They're the ones that are least likely to vote for the, well, not quite least, the older people too. But the reason I say that it's the highest, they're the most conservative, is if you take that 43% there and add it to the 7% PPC, that's right of center, right? We've got 50% of young people age 18 to 29 are voting for a conservative party, one or the other. It's higher than everybody else, even higher than those curmudgeons at 47%. You add that to the 2%, you only get to 49. Young people are the most conservative voting generation. Again, nature's healing. But this is young people realizing that the policies of Trudeau and the older millennials, Gen Xers like me, it's going to make, that stuff is going to make sure that they never own a house, never can afford children, never will have a vacation, can't afford groceries, can't afford a car, never pay off their debts. They're realizing there's got to be another way. And so what in prior iterations of Canadian politics, we would sort of consider those people like the lost generation. Once you get out there in the world and pay some taxes, you'll start coming back to our way of thinking. They're not like that anymore. They're saying never, never Trudeau. So that is it's a beautiful thing to see. Let's go to let's go to the green/fun stuff and then wrap up the show, if you don't mind. One more thing. So young people are also getting sick of the ongoing scandals. Many of you are too young to know who Jean Chrétien is. I mentioned him earlier in the show, but he would only ever dream of the levels of corruption that Justin Trudeau is able to get away with. And people are still in jail, I believe, with regard to the sponsorship scandal, which was this big scandal that unfolded under Chrétien, where they were giving money to liberal connected people under the guise of sponsorship. And there was a federal inquiry, it was a Gomery commission, and they tried their best to get to the bottom of it, and some criminal charges were laid. And that stuff is just a drop in the bucket compared to just one of Trudeau's scandals, the Indigenous procurement scandal, the Arrive scam scandal, and the Green Slush Fund, where people who were in charge of giving out the money at this green scheme, where it was basically, we're going to give money to these green companies so that we can create a green economy, the Great Green Reset, right? But which is already in and of itself bad. I don't want to be giving failing green companies money any more than I want to be giving failing media companies money. They deserve a market correction. The market has spoken. We don't need to fix it. Let them fix themselves. Let them get mugged by reality. But anyway, even worse, the people who are on the board of the Green Slush Fund were giving their own companies money. And the Liberals knew that the board chair, this Annette Verschuren, had conflicts when they chose her. And she said she didn't even apply to be the head of the company of the Green Slush Fund. They chose her. And so they chose this woman who was conflicted, knowing full well she would quite likely give herself money, and she did, millions and millions. And the government has been unwilling to turn over the documents related to this absolute scandal. And let's go to this. The government violated House of Commons powers on Green Slush Fund docs, the speaker ruled. So Kermit the Speaker, Greg Fergus, because he does look like Kermit the Frog, he ruled that the government have violated the powers of the House of Commons when it failed to surrender records on the so-called Green Slush Fund so they could be turned over to the RCMP, even though the force doesn't want them. I don't care if the RCMP doesn't want to investigate. They should have those records, and it's a blight on the RCMP that they're not investigating this level of corruption. So the Liberal government is saying that this is basically ridiculous. It's the Liberals being, or it's the Conservatives being abusive. Here's what Fergus did. The House has undoubtedly the right to order the production of any and all documents from an entity or individual it deems necessary to carry out its duties. The House has clearly ordered the production of certain documents, and that order has not been fully complied with. He said he cannot come to any other conclusion but to find the question of privilege has been established. Now, Karina Gould, remember her from such scandals as holding hands with a Nazi in the House of Commons? You'll remember her, right? She's the third part of the throuple with Yara Sachs and Yaroslav Hunka, the SS murderer. So she says that it is a terrible precedent. How dare the Speaker make us produce evidence of our own corruption? How dare they? They say the RCMP doesn't want them, but if, for example, a Conservative MP files a police complaint about a criminal corruption, then the RCMP might want that evidence eventually, or they should. And if they don't, I want to know why they don't want it. But let's say someone were to file a criminal complaint you would need evidence to support that criminal complaint, and the records are that evidence. You don't just get to, like, imagine you're, I don't know, let's just say, imagine you're money laundering, and you get to say to the police, actually, you're not going to get my banking records, sorry. I'm just not going to give those to you. And it stops there. This doesn't happen in the real world. The Liberals think that that should happen in the House of Commons. Crazy, insane, but this is the Liberal government. Mad because one of their own, the Speaker of the House of Commons, Greg Fergus, who just normally loses complete and total control of the House of Commons on a day-to-day basis, may have accidentally done the right thing here. So anyways, Kermit the Speaker ordered production of those, so let's just see if the Liberals do it. Okay, we're over time. I've got a very busy day. I know you all do too. I'm sure people working behind the scenes at Rebel News also, very busy day. So we'll wrap the show up here with last chat from regular supporter Ryerson Gary, gives us $5. It says, Bernier may be, that's Maxime Bernier, leader of the PPC, may be the only politician in Canada who understands and believes in the classical democracy, in the pre-Christ Greek democracies. In those democracies, the citizens had a vote on every issue. Don't they do that in other more direct democracies? What's the other one? Sweden, maybe they do. Is it Sweden? It's one of those Nordic countries where they do that. I understand it can be a bit arduous, but I believe in more democracy, the better. Okay, Olivia, is that it for chats? Okay, great. Hopefully I see you guys all at Rebel News Live this coming Saturday. For tickets and details, go to rebelnewslive.com. That's the show for today. Thank you for bearing with me as I fly solo without David Menzies. We'll see everybody back Friday, maybe with the co-host, maybe not, who knows. Things are fluid, as they say here at Rebel News, and frequently subject to change, but I will be here, hopefully. Thanks to everybody who watches the show, who shares the show, tells their friends about the show. It helps us get around the good old-fashioned tyrannical censorship of Justin Trudeau and the social media platforms who work in collusion with him. Thanks to everybody who pitches in. And as my friend David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
It's the news event of the year. Canada's most controversial premier sits down with Canada's most controversial journalist, and everything is on the table. Come watch Ezra Levant one-on-one with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith in front of a live studio audience in Calgary. Nothing's off limits. Nothing's held back. Questions that would make Justin Trudeau invoke martial law. Answers that will make Stephen Guilbeault pee his pants. You're not going to want to miss this one. But you have to be there in person at the Rebel News Live mega conference in Calgary on October the 5th. Tickets are limited, so drop everything and go to rebelnewslive.com right now. Special discounted prices for Patriots and special extra high prices if you're with the CBC. Go to rebelnewslive.com now.